The online course I have designed for this final assignment is called Welcome to Your New Home, and it's a course for adult English as a second language learners. English as a second language, or ESL, is also referred to as English to speakers of other languages, English as a new language, English literacy, English language. I prefer English to speakers of other languages because I have met many students who are learning English not as their second language, but as their third, fourth, fifth, even sixth language. But when I was thinking about this class and thinking about this assignment, I was thinking about who are my students going to be. My students for this particular online class, adult English language learners. They're workers, they're parents, they work throughout the day. Sometimes they don't have time to go to a class twice or three times a week, which means that learning online is better, is more convenient. The languages I had in my classes were extremely diverse. You had Bengali, I had Haitian Creole, Fulani, Wolof, Spanish, Urdu, but we met face to face. And that's how we shared, that's how we learned, that's how we communicated. But when it comes to online learning, we would have to set the communication expectations, which is why I have made as one of my requirements that everybody should have a mobile device with a working camera, a headset with microphone, ideally also a computer, either a laptop or a desktop, and definitely an active email account, which, let's be honest, that might exclude some of the students that I have in mind for this particular class, which is why I would have to find ways of incorporating social media, right? So Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, GroupMe. A lot of my adult ESL students used WhatsApp to communicate with their relatives back home and all around the world. Going back to my students, I want to think about the diversity of the type of students who this course is designed for. And we have students who had no access to literacy instruction throughout their lifetime, or limited access to literacy instruction, or students, for example, who come from cultures and nations that have non-alphabetic script, okay, or non-Roman alphabets, or students who were educated. I had some students who had bachelor's degrees from back home. Learning side by side with students who only studied up to the age of 5 or 6. That's the diversity. We don't get to handpick the students we teach. And this is something that I want to use to guide my design. I also thought about andragogy, which is separate, different from pedagogy. Andragogy has to do with the methods and principles that are employed in adult education. And if you look at the third principle on the list, I'm not going to read the four, but the third principle, adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance and impact to their job or personal life. That is something that defines my adult evening students. They want to learn English to improve their lives. They're also self-directed, which is another adult learning theory. My students, I'm designing this class not for people who are told they have to come learn English, which in a way, maybe they are told, but they want to learn English on their own to improve their lives. Okay, so, if we look at some of the three main goals defined here, to enhance the ability of learners to be self-determined in their studies, to foster transformational learning, which is something we discussed throughout the semester, and to promote emancipatory learning and social action as an integral part of self-directed learning. These are the two main gears that I want to help me design this course, I'm sorry. But going into the modules I have designed, well, the only one I'm going to go into is the third one, which has to do with numbers. And one might think, well, numbers for adults. Remember the diversity that we have of our students. And we might, be under the assumption that numbers are too basic or too infantile. The reality is that a lot of students, adult students, have children at home and they want to be able to help their kids with their homework. When you move to another country, or the first thing I believe one should learn are the numbers. You have to deal with that. I mean, I think this module aligns well with Module 4, what has to do with money. Module 5, buying and returning and exchanging. Module 7, that has to do with renting and buying an apartment. So numbers are very important to know, especially if English is not your first language and you're at the beginning level, at the entering level of proficiency. My module objectives: to recognize, and that's the listening modality of ESL, recognize types of numbers, whole numbers, ordinal numbers, interesting numbers, and to be able to pronounce them, which is the speaking modality. Various types of numbers correctly. Now, you could write various types of numbers correctly. And they're going to be doing this through their phones. As a bonus, this is not required. Because remember, we have some students who might not want to do that. We have some who will. We have to differentiate our instruction based on the different types of students that we have. Now, I would ask them to check out and to look at these videos beforehand as many times as they want. And once again, from the outside, we might say, well, that's too basic. These are adults' numbers. It is not, as long as we are not infantilizing these adults who are learning English. The teaching of these numbers could be very, 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 very helpful and beneficial for them. I have another activity that I have for this particular module, and it's a game, and they're going to be completing this throughout the week, and they could do this from their phones or from their laptops, and it's going to help them learn the numbers. It's going to help them learn the numbers. And this activity, and I wrote there, it's for students who are ready, willing, and able to read. Remember, we have different proficiency levels in the class, and it's a beginner class. And then when you teach ESL during the evening, you're going to get a mixed group of students. As I showed in the previous slide, I think it was slide 4 or 5. You will have students who are literate in their home language and others who aren't. Students who have bachelor's degrees from other countries and students who only went up to the first or second grade. This activity, I would ask them to complete these scenarios with the number that they select, and they would have to record themselves and share it in one of our chat rooms or via email. And now, before I move forward, I'm almost done with this presentation, the assumptions that I have that helped me design this, or the assumptions that underlie this online course, is that students have cell phones, tablets, or computers. Can't assume that. Cannot assume that. They have access to the internet. Once again, another assumption. That they have an active email account. That they have a reliable phone number. I mean, sometimes you have people who change their phone numbers quite often for whatever reason. That they know how to save and share content from their mobile devices and from their computers. And that they actually value online learning. I mean, some people in their minds think that learning is something that only happens in a classroom. We discussed this throughout the semester. So these are some of the assumptions, and also this may exclude some of my potential students. But this is the problem, and I believe one of our classmates presented something on design thinking. It's a problem that could be solved, and the world is moving, and once again, we're in the early stages, and I see it doable. Thank you so much.